and they came home after years. And there was no pension to go for them from America that time either.
No.
They came home and they'd done managers for gentlemen around when they'd gone to England back for a holiday or thing. They'd go out and stay in the house, look after it and keep it in order while they were away. Then they'd come back to our house where we rented to them. And they'd stay there then, and she'd dressmake again.
And who was next to Mrs. Jordan then?
Mama O'Donnell, who used to call
Was it not? Where did Nellie?
Nellie Fairty was in it.
And Mary Ann. And Mary Ann.
And Mary Ann.
Mary Ann was Tom's sister.
Yes. Tom married and lived in the next house. And she lived with her father. They lived in Tullavrick. And when they used to be Jarvin, they all came over to be near the town.
Oh yes.
There was more
business and trade in the town. Yeah.
You get more call.
Yes.
And Mary Ann was there.
So she took in Nellie when he married.
Yes, when he was married, and as the children was growing up, she'd take in one until it was fit to go to America. That one went to America, but Nellie had stayed with her.
Oh yeah.
And the rest went to America.
Well, then there was Mama O'Donnell. Yeah.
She was next. And Mama O'Donnell was married to a butcher by trade, but his father before him was a butcher, Johnny Donlan. Johnny had Patsy one son, Jack two sons, James another, and James O'Neill, I think he had another one.
And where
really?
And you were friends with Maggie, was she?
I was. And I was in this patch then worked in Roy's where the mother worked. As he grew up and he went to school, but he was a self-taught man. His mother was a wonderful Irish speaker. She had more Irish than she had English. And he came out to be an Irish teacher. And he went over to Umlicady where the college was. And he met De Valera, Eamon De Valera in it. And he brought him over to meet his mother because De Valera was interested in Irish. So he brought her over this day. He brought him over this day, and I came in, and Maggie was my chum. And she says, "Do you know who's in the room with Pádraig?" "Who?" says I. "Eamon De Valera." Well, she hadn't it said when I was out, and I landed home, because I didn't know him and I wasn't acquainted with him. So he stayed that night and they went over again, crossed. And Pádraig married Father Flanagan's sister. And Father Flanagan's father was a tailor in Dublin. He had a great business. He employed people, and he had owned the daughter, Sinead. She married to Valera. And the priest, two in family.
And there was another old man down there, Ali Carr, where he was a great man for the history too.
Oh, he was an old man. I'd say he came with some Protestant family to Old Chapel. And he came up from Old Chapel to camp to live with his father and his mother and his brother. and he was a gardener by trade. And he used to come up to the big stone. There was a big stone out in the wall.
At Feenerty's.
Feenerty stone we used to call it. Back to Feenerty stone. He'd come up every evening, and my mother, my Carrotty, and Mama O'Donnell would sit there.
And I used to be up with them too, listening to them chat.
And all the children were together around them to hear them talking.
Well, they were great times, weren't they?
They were not too bad, but no one had anything better than the other. We were all in the one level.
Grand old simple ways.
Very simple.
And
But,
great religion and fasting.
I remember when Bid McDonough and Coleman McDonough lived out in Liam. That's 5 miles from Oughterard. She'd get up every morning for 8 o'clock mass. Hail, rain or storm. Come down fasting when she was going to receive. And the rain shaking out her cloak or shawl when she'd come to the chapel, and she'd shake it out side to side and go in, kneel down and receive, and walk back the 4 miles or 5 again.
And all the women had shawls that time.
That they had
Some of
the
them
Galway shawl of grey.
And some of them black. And some of them paisley.
Paisley.
Yeah.
Well, when they got married long ago in Oughterard, you weren't a respectable woman if you hadn't a mantle and
A clad a ring.
a clad a ring and a paisley shawl put inside it. That you were a respectable thing. Otherwise you were only a tinker. And when my mother got married, she was only a few days married, when my grandmother said to him, "Now, John, you must go into Galway and get a mantle for Mariah, and a clad a ring, and a paisley shawl, and then she'd be respectable."
And you saw troubled times too. What about the time when you were evicted? Or how?
Oh, the time there's between Ireland and England. There's I saw that time well. Little Michael, my youngest, he was the youngest at the time, was only about a week old when the trouble came between the Fianna Fáil and the Fine Gael. And they were expecting a raid. The Fianna Fáils were expecting a raid from Hertford. So they got big blocks of trees, put them across the road at our gable. And it took our gable, and we were put out, and we had to go down to Mama O'Donnell's for that night. No raid came, but that didn't save us. My husband stayed in the house, that's all was in it. He said if anything comes or any trouble I can hop in or hop out. But the children and myself had to go out. So that's what. But I remember afterwards then, when they used to have dances with the Fine Gael when they won. The Republic was put out and they left any amount of debt to be paid. And the Fine Gael came in, and there was as much bills into them, whether they were taken or not. They demanded payment. They had to put good price on everything in shops and all to try to meet all. When it was cleared up again, the Fianna Fáil won and knocked them out. And I remember in the Fine Gael time, and I was on the Fine Gael time that time, I used to take the what I call them now, papers they used to have for the winning the elections,
yes.
Election papers, and I used to distribute them on the road. And so the people would take them off if they were coming. And I often went down as far as the old chapel with them.
You did.
And came up again. And I remember Johnny was coming from working at the minister's, and he had a saw on his tool bag and it was out that way. And what I would call them from England was going around. Black and tans. The black and tans was going around. And they used to put the shot over his head thinking it was a gun, do you know.
So times were as bad as they are today in Ireland.
There was very bad times.
There was always violence there.
And thing. But when I remember when there was a raid on John Geoghegan's house.
And where did John Geoghegan live now?
He lived in my Cullen.
Oh, yeah.
A bit outside my Cullen. He was a cousin of your father's. And there was a raid over in Ballinasloe side. And he was supposed to be in that hold up. So he was told by the Irish at the time that they were to come, the black and tans was to come for him this night. And the two younger brothers said, "You go now tonight, John. There's a raid on this house tonight." Well, if I went, he says, one of ye'd be taken. And as they put me down for it, I'll stand my ground. As long as they'll take me from the door and not to shoot them before my mother. That's all I care about, and that's all that's troubling me. So when he heard the knock come to the door that night, and they were all in the kitchen, the two brothers and himself and the mother. This is for me now, says he, walking out. And the mother heard it, and she went out to the door with him. And she said to them, what's bringing you here? Leave the way, woman, says they. Is John there? John stepped out. I'm here, says he. But bring me now, says he, down the road. Don't shoot me before my mother. They'd done nothing but threw the gun opposite his mother and shot him.
So that was a sad sight for her to see.
She never done a day's good till she died. And the brothers lived there, but it nearly killed one of them. The other fellow went to England, a carpenter. But there were times.
hard times.